everyone, I'm Bonita from Pennies to Dollars and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about why I am so frugal. Some of you have been with me for a long time and you know that I was raised in rural Kansas by Depression era parents. So a lot of the things that I do and have learned throughout my life came from them. And I've shared a lot of that with you. But today I thought I would go into more depth about some of the things and the ways that we did things growing up and some of the things that I still do that I learned from that era. One of the main reasons is I had a really great example from my parents. My parents were super frugal, super careful with money. However, they saved and they always had money. We paid cash for everything, including brand new cars. My parents would save up, they would barter, and then they would pay cash for vehicles and get better prices by doing that. We didn't have credit. We didn't owe money to anyone. We relied solely on ourselves and the 160 acres that my dad farmed. And if you know anything about farming, that is a really small farmland to have to be able to make a living off of. But every penny mattered. My parents kept track of everything that they spent. I was raised to appreciate the land, not only for what it could give us, but for the beauty that it had. So we used the food off of the land to feed us, we used it for income, and we used the crops to feed our animals. We were very self-sufficient and very homegrown in every sense of the word. Dad had a drawer and he kept every single receipt. No matter what we bought, it went in that drawer. He did his own taxes with only a 10th grade education, and he deducted taxes he paid, including sales tax. So if you didn't know that you can deduct sales tax, if you itemize, you absolutely can. And my dad knew that, and he kept track of every penny. He had great money management and money saving skills. And he had other skills as well. He repaired our farm equipment. He changed the oil in all of our vehicles. Anything that needed fixed, he took care of that. And when we went on vacations twice a summer, if we went more than 3,000 miles, we stopped and he changed oil on our vacation before we headed home. We never paid anyone to do things like that. We didn't have an air conditioner, and if you have ever gone without air conditioning or tried to turn down your thermostat a little bit at a time to try to save money, your body gets used to the temperature and adapts to that. My husband and I don't run the air conditioner the majority of the time here too. If it gets super, super hot in the house, we will run one in the late evening, or we'll run one when we go to bed at night so that we can sleep comfortably. And we will run one if we have company and it's a super hot day. But if it's just him and I being uncomfortable, we just deal with it, and our bodies have adapted to that. My dad made our own campers. He made the kind that went on the back of a pickup bed. As you saw in the thumbnail, I have a picture of one of the ones that he made, and we would literally lift it and slide it on the truck. They were custom made, and he made them to fit. And then when we were done camping, we would slide them off on cinder blocks, and that's how we would store them when we weren't camping so that we could use the truck. He even had it wired where we could use electricity from the truck's battery, but we rarely did that unless it was late at night and we were trying to see to get ready for bed in a hurry because we didn't want to run down the truck's battery. But he had everything fixed where all of that worked. We always took a huge water can with us on vacation, full of ice water with cups. I don't even remember ever seeing a bottle of water in my entire childhood. That is something that has become more popular over the last few years, but we didn't have anything like that growing up. And when we went on vacations, those were the only times that I ever ate out my entire childhood. We would eat out at McDonald's a time or two on vacation, and that was a real treat. We had our own fruit trees, and we called it an orchard, but there was really only 3 or 4 fruit trees. My mom would put a ladder in the back of the pickup, climb on the ladder, don't do this at home, and she would have a bushel basket up there, and she would be picking apples. Now, anything that fell off of the tree, we picked those up first, and we processed those first. Nowadays, so many people go to the store and they look for the perfect produce, but we used everything that fell on the ground. We cut out all the bad spots and we processed that fruit. We didn't let anything waste. Even as I was an adult, my dad had a green apple tree in his backyard, and I would pick up all the apples off the ground, cut out the bad spots, and make my specialty green apple pie. If you have not had a green apple pie, they are the best, and my family loves my green apple pie. We've even had bake sales where I have had orders for so many green apple pies, trying to make all of them for all of the neighbors. My dad also kept track of our gas mileage all of the time. And if we weren't getting good gas mileage, he looked into why we weren't getting good gas mileage. All of those things were watched with precise care to make sure that we were getting the most for our money in every aspect of our life. We drove old farm equipment. We didn't have cabs on the tractors or the combines. Dad built canopies to try to keep the sun off, and he wore a hat. But a lot of the big farmers around us would have tractors with air conditioning and cabs and really big bank loans that went with that big farm equipment. When we would break down, and sometimes we would break down a lot, Dad would get the parts and he would repair it himself. And my dad also learned from the best, my grandparents. And I have a diary from my grandmother, and I was going to read a little bit to you. They took a trip in 1936, and she called it a tour. They took a vacation through Missouri, Arkansas, and Oklahoma. They also stopped by Kansas City and El Dorado and came back home. And I thought I would share a little bit of it with you today. The days before we were ready to start on our long-desired tour, we were full of keen anticipation. We had never gone on a trip before, and of course, we were going to enjoy it. So we were full of a thrilling joy as we made our plans to go through Missouri, Arkansas, and Oklahoma, camping along the road as we went, and visiting 2 of my husband's relatives, a brother in Kansas City and a sister in El Dorado, Kansas, and my own sister at Okmulgee, Oklahoma. So we packed our bedding, clothes, and cooking utensils, and leaving our farm in charge of a certain person and his mother, we set out before breakfast. They talk about how they stopped in Topeka and had all of the lemonade that they could drink for 5 cents at a roadside stand. They also talk about going to Okmulgee, Oklahoma, where there were windowless and doorless shacks and people were living in them. They visited the Power and Light building in Kansas City, and at that time my grandparents did not have electricity. So this was a really big deal to them. They drove through Henrietta, Oklahoma, and I won't read the condentations that were written in here, but it did not look safe to them. So they traveled on. They found free parking 7 miles from Okmulgee. So those of us that feel like sometimes we are not keeping up with the Joneses, that we are struggling, that we don't have the nice things that everybody has. I want you to keep your chin up, because what really matters is home and family and being together, taking care of each other, supporting one another. It doesn't matter what you have or what you don't have. But I think we get caught up in that so much. And I think it's always a good reminder to tell us that money is not everything, and the lack of money is not everything. So if this has been inspiring to you, please give me a thumbs up, and I hope to see you in the next video.